This thought has been on the back of my mind quite a bit, and I don't know what to think about it, but it's something that I've been debating with myself and the voices in my head for quite a bit. So when you're like after like when you're on a road trip or something, and like or like before you watch a movie, like when you're about to do something that's gonna take like a long time, you're like, oh, I don't need to use the bathroom. I'm fine. I don't need to go at all. Um, and then like an hour in, or like right before you have to do that thing, like you gotta like take like a massive dump. This is getting somewhere, I promise. Um, what I'm getting at is, do you think there was anybody on the boats on June 6, 1944, on D-Day, approaching Normandy Beach, going, "God damn, I really need to take a shit"? I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know that question. But Zachary Brown broadcast is back. I took a little hiatus, and there's a lot of stuff that went down during that hiatus, and that's why I took that hiatus, is so I could do that stuff. So on this episode of the Zachary Brown broadcast, I will show off some of my new transitions that I made. Yes, audio transitions I've made. Um, I'll talk about INDYCAR, the testing, which I was at, and I will also talk about Formula One and how Ferrari is going to win the World Constructors' Championship here. All right? They're going to win it. And if you don't believe me, then let me explain why, and then you will believe me. But first, we have to start at this discovery that I made. I made this discovery, and since this discovery, I've gone 3 for 3. All right? I can like perfectly figure out how, like, gauge a person's personality by the way that they react and or answer to this question that I am about to pose here. All right? And like I said before, I've gone 3 for 3, so you may think it's dumb, but I've gotten it perfect every single time. All right? The trick is you go into a room full of a bunch of people that you don't know. All right? And anybody who hears this question, like, even if they're not being asked the question, you can't use the question on them, because then they know it's coming. But you go to like a group of people, all right, and like unsuspecting people, and you go up to them, and then you ask them one simple question, all right? You go up to them, say, "Excuse me, may I have a moment of your time?" And then they start listening to you, look them dead in the eye, and ask, "Have you ever shot a dog before?" And usually they'll respond with, "What?" Like something like that. And that's when you elaborate. That's when you go in and go, "Yeah, I mean, like, grab the dog, like, by the neck, like, dragged it out into the backyard, and, like, shoved a gun into its face and blown its brains out. Have you ever shot a dog before?" And I've gotten 2 responses. I've gotten 1, no, and 2, why the hell would I do that? But from those responses and their facial reactions, I've managed to be able to gauge what kind of personality that they have. And so I should try this on my college professors. I should see what they think about this, because this is really interesting. This is really interesting stuff. This is real science here. All right. All right. This is like actual science. I don't care about the stuff that they make like lab rats do. Like this, and I don't need lab rats for this either. I just need somebody who hasn't heard that question yet, if they've shot a dog before. So let's talk IndyCar, all right? Let's talk IndyCar, because I was at the IndyCar. If you heard that bang, that was probably the kazoo. Um, the Corn Crooner. Is it called the Corn? No, it's Corn Country. I'm sorry about that. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna captain a massive vessel like the Titanic, and then intentionally wreck it into an iceberg and go down with the ship, just so I can repay my sin for that. And anyway, what the fuck was I talking? Oh yeah, IndyCar. So I went to the open test in Phoenix, and what was the fucking name of it? Hang on, I have the poster here. The UNSER Family IndyCar Open Test at Phoenix Raceway. That's the name of it. So for the sake of brevity, we'll just call it the test. But it took place over 2 days. It took place on a Tuesday and it took place on a Wednesday. The Tuesday I did not go to, and not many people went to because you had to actually be invited for that one. The Wednesday I did go to that one, and I don't. I got first off, I got to see my boy Marcus Erickson drive the car. That was pretty dope. I got to see the other drivers drive the car. That was pretty dope. I took my DSLR and I got some pictures. Some of them are probably good. I haven't edited them yet, but I have like one picture. I know at least one of them is good, and it's Scott Dixon's number 9 PNC Bank Honda Chip Ganassi coming out of turn 3 and entering the dogleg, and that it's a baller picture. It is a baller picture. But the reason I'm divided on this test is not because of like the way it the test itself was a test. All right, I didn't expect to go in with like there's gonna be a bunch of overtakes and there's gonna be this and this and this. No, there were like I think a maximum of like 8 cars on the track at a time, and one of the things that they were testing was Firestone had introduced a new front right tire. Fuck. Sorry for that, guys. A new front right tire. And so that front right tire, the reason they introduced it, and it's only for the front right. They didn't introduce any other for the other wheels. But the reason they introduced it is because when the car is on the banking, whether it be Phoenix or Indianapolis or Milwaukee or Gateway, like any oval, when the car is turning left, the weight of the car shifts right, and it puts more strain on the right side tires, particularly the front right, as the front right is used to steer. So the front right is already at an angle, and then so it just puts more weight. So they basically put like a harder compound on, and they're testing that. And the schedule for the day was that I think the gates opened at 8:30, or maybe it was 8. I don't remember. They opened sometime around then, and then the cars actually got on track at around 9. Obviously, like the teams just weren't taking around. They were like running around, setting up like pit boxes, getting their spotters up on the little spotter deck area thing. I don't know what it's called at Phoenix Raceway. The really weird thing is that racetracks have different names for that area depending on where you go, like which racetrack. And it's not like in Europe it's called this, or in Canada it's like I can go to like Phoenix and then I could go to like Daytona and it would be different, or I could go to like Indianapolis and it would be different. Like it's weird, but anyway. So the teams were busy, like rolling out the cars and stuff. And then that session, I think, lasted from 9 a.m. to noon. It ended right at noon. And then this is where my point of contention begins, is the autograph signing. The first 300 fans, and I'm guessing there's probably only 300 people there, probably less. Maybe a little bit more, because I know some people didn't have, but maybe... People are dumb, so they may have just missed it. But the point is, first 300 fans would get a wristband. And that wristband allowed you to go to the driver autograph signings. And I got a wristband. And they had a yellow wristband and a blue wristband. And this is important. So keep that under your memory. But yellow and blue, because those are the colors of Phoenix Raceway. By the way, when referring to it, like, as the name, I say Phoenix Raceway, but then, like, when I, like, abbreviate it, I just say PIR. Because, like, they haven't used, like, Phoenix International Raceway for, like, a really long time. Like, at least a decade, at least. Very minimum. But it's just a lot faster to say PIR. It rolls off the tongue better than Phoenix Raceway. So if you hear me say PIR, I mean Phoenix Raceway. and not Phoenix International Raceway. It wouldn't matter because they're the same thing, but I know, like, of the 0 people that listen to this broadcast, like, probably one of the voices in my head would go, oh, you're not saying it right, so I just had to address it. Anyway, so it's like this teal, blue, and like a yellow are the colors of PIR. And so the session ends, and I'm wearing my wristband, and it's blue. It is very blue. And this is where things began to get weird. So we go to the little area, and the drivers, I thought the way that it was going to be was that all the drivers were going to be in a line, and then you got your autographs, and then you left. Because when I've gone to autograph signings in the past, such as the Nitro Cross, which obviously Nitro Cross is not on the same level as INDYCAR, but Intercontinental GT Challenge, that is pretty close to the level of INDYCAR, at least in Europe. Like the 24 Hours of Spa, I went to an autograph signing there, and it was like this as well. But you go there, and it wasn't like that at all. So if you had a blue wristband, you were put in one group, and if you had a yellow wristband, you were put in another group. And based on which group you were in, those were the drivers that you would get to see. And so, because it was my luck, literally every single driver that I wanted to see, besides Will Power, was in the yellow group. However, I had a little bit of luck on my side, because these were those really cheap wristbands. They weren't the ones that lock. The ones that lock are a pain in the rear. I'll tell you that. But if you're really careful, you can get the sticky off. So me and my dad, we swapped wristbands. And then I got in the line for the yellow line. And the yellow line had my boy Marcus Ericsson. It had reigning champion Scott Dixon. It did have Scott Dixon. Scott Dixon was in the line. Alex Pillow was in the line. David Malukas was in the line. Literally everybody that I would have wanted to see. Even Stingray Robb was in the line. And I wanted to say hi to Stingray Robb, but I couldn't, and you'll see why in a second. But like I said, literally everybody that I wanted to see except Will Power was in that line. But it was like a thing of like, well, I like Will Power, but I like all these 5 drivers. And I don't like Will Power more than my like of these 5 drivers. Especially Marcus Ericsson, who I have glazed many times on this broadcast, probably. And so we go in, and the line finally loosens up, and I walk into the building, and there's nothing there. And I'm a bit confused. I'm thinking, okay, that's odd. That's peculiar. Maybe this is like a staging area. It was not a staging area. Turns out that the drivers had to leave for the to do their job and drive the car. And without telling anybody, or without any notice whatsoever, nobody at Phoenix Raceway notified anybody about it. And so all that was there was a couple cards on the table that were pre-signed by the drivers, and they were all gone. So I did get a Marcus Ericsson card, and I got a Pato Award card. I got a Scott McLaughlin. I did not get a Dixon card. And that's the other thing too, is because the problem is that what's stopping someone from taking 10 cards and then selling them on eBay. So I did not get a Dixon card. I did not get a Pillow card. I did not get a Malukas card. It was a tragedy. And it's the same way with my dad. And here's in the blue line. Here's the same way with him. But he did get to see one of the drivers, though. He got to see Renus VK. Renus VK actually went up the line and was like, "Hey, I'm sorry about this happening," and signed the people. So my dad is officially a Renus VK fan now. And everybody that I've talked to who was there said that Ericsson did the same thing, but I must have missed it because I was outside of the building. which sucks because, like I said, he's my boy, and I love Marcus Ericsson, and he can do no wrong. Until 2 hours later, and you'll see in a minute. But the thing is that I hit the mic there. I think like I hadn't been to like an INDYCAR autograph session before. This was actually my first INDYCAR session like ever. Like when we went to California, like I remember going to Long Beach and they had like one of the curbs there, like permanently there, like on the sidewalk. And I wanted my picture with it because there's like INDYCAR memorabilia. But like now I have like a bunch of pictures of INDYCAR memorabilia because I've been, and I'll have more because I'm going to the race. But like I went like any troubled person does. I went on Reddit to see what people were thinking. I went on r/INDYCAR, and I am not alone in my thoughts. So it is nice for me to know that I am not schizophrenic, at least when it comes to INDYCAR, and that other people shared my opinion. The other people that were there who had been to other autograph sessions said that it was a shit show and that PIR did not handle it well. And like, let me get this clear, all right? There's nothing that INDYCAR as an organization could have done. Like the actual sport, the actual drivers and the teams of INDYCAR, they really couldn't do anything. This was all the fault of Phoenix Raceway. I think they underestimated. I don't even know. They should have had it as the first 100 fans. Because I think they underestimated how many people would actually show up. And as a result, that like messed everything up. But anyway, autograph session's done. We go back to our seats. And we're like, all right, the drivers will be out in 15 minutes. Let's go. All right, we're going to see some more action. And we did not see more action. It began to rain. At first it was little sprinkles, and then it was like pissing down. It was pissing down like cats and dogs. And this is not good. This is especially not good because INDYCAR already does not like the rain. They have a wet tire, but they almost never use it, even on the road courses, let alone the ovals. On a banked oval like Phoenix, you can't race on it when it's wet because all the water pools up at the bottom of the racing line. And so what happens is you have all the water on the bottom of the racing line, which obviously causes you to lose grip. And so if you want to avoid the water, you go to the top of the racing line, but that's where all the marbles are, like from the tire, like the little bits of tire that come off from the wear, and you hit those and then you lose grip. But either way, you lose grip and then you crash and explode and die. And so this was not good. So they bring out the jet dryers and they bring out the people and they're working the track. But the problem is that like if I'm out there, like to use an analogy, like say I'm outside with like a piece of metal or something and it's raining and I have like no matter how good of the paper towels that I use, like the quality of the paper towels that I use to wipe that metal, it's still going to get wet. It's just going to get wet again because it's still raining. And so it was still raining, and obviously PIR nor INDYCAR can control the weather. So yeah, I'll have to write a strongly worded letter to Tel Aviv about that. But the delay lasted 90 minutes. And after 60 minutes, me and my dad packed up and left. And I'm not sure if that is a good thing or a bad thing. Because after we left, roughly 30 minutes after we left, the session started again. And I think Alexander Rossi set the fastest lap. I think there's like something like a 179.4 mile an hour average. And to those unaware with how oval qualifying works, They don't do it by time on the ovals. They do it by mile an hour average. So at Indianapolis, they do 4 laps, but at the other ovals, they only do 2. And so, like, I do like a warm up lap, like to get up to speed, and then I do 1 lap, and then I do another lap, and then they take the average mile an hour of those 2 laps, find the average of that, and then bam, that's my qualifying. And whoever has the fastest, you see how it goes. And so I was excited to see where my boy Marcus Ericsson was, and he was flying. He was flying throughout the day. I had the INDYCAR app open because I am a autistic little neat, and I had the live telemetry open, and he was flying. I believe he hit 180 coming out of the dog leg, which is really fucking fast. But turns out the car did not like him going fast, because coming out of turn 3 into the dog leg, something happened, and I don't know. The track was still a little bit wet, but Marcus said it wasn't that, and that it was a mechanical problem. But he wrecked. He smacked the car into the wall, and it wasn't like a big, like, catastrophic. I just hit the mic again. I have a little pop filter in front of the mic, and it's dangerously close to my nose. But there's just a little bit of rear wing damage. It wasn't like a total write-off, but like it was still enough to end his day. And I cannot find any footage of the crash whatsoever on the internet. I can find a picture of the crash. There's a picture of the car, like, after it stopped, like after it hit the wall, and there's like a video of the car being loaded onto a trailer, but there is no video of the car actually hitting the wall. So had this been like any other driver, as a matter of fact, this had happened to another driver before, and the number 4 AJ Foyt machine, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think his name is Kyle Colette. He's from South America. He's a South American driver, which means he'll either be really fast or really shit. There is no in between when it comes to South American drivers. But Kai Colette, during day 1 of testing, and there 100% would be no footage of this because, like I said, you had to be invited there, had a little kiss at the wall, and had to have his rear wing done. And so it was basically almost... he didn't hit the wall. Looking at the picture, he obviously didn't hit the wall as hard as Ericsson did. Because there's just a little tap. There's just a little tap on the wing. A little bit dislodged. But yeah, so what was I talking about? Oh yeah, anyway. Yeah, so there is no footage whatsoever of that happening whatsoever. So I lost my train of thought. I don't know where I was going with Kai Colette, but Marcus Ericsson crashed, and I'm not sure whether I should be upset or happy that I was not there to see it. Like I said, I will be seeing my boy back in March during the race, and so hopefully he doesn't crash there. I have a massive thing of wood here that I'm actually knocking on. You can't really hear it because it's like really under the table, but I am knocking on the wood. As you do know, I do respect wood. I am not a guy for faux wood. But anyway, so that's INDYCAR. That is INDYCAR done and dusted. And oh my, we're almost at half an hour already. Would you look at that? I think to celebrate this, I think I should bring out one of the transitions as we transfer to Formula One. You unlock this door with the key of delusion. Beyond it is another dimension, a dimension of hope, a dimension of strategy, a dimension where this is finally our year. You're moving into a land of bullshit and tactical heartbreak. You've just crossed over into the Tifosi. So, what did you guys think? That's not even the best of the transitions in my opinion. I will be introducing a segment later called the bitching box. Um, I was gonna have a little thing in here called tips from a semi-amateur racist, but I haven't found the right clip. I know what sound I want to use for it, but I can't find it. So, and by the way, by racist I mean someone who watches races, not someone who indulges in kicking people off the bus. But yeah. So like I just said, I'll bring the bitching box in later. But right now, let's talk about Ferrari. And I specifically want to talk about Ferrari because they're going to win the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship before the summer break this year, guys. Let's go! This is officially, 2026 is officially our year, okay? It is our year. We have suffered long enough, and 2026 is our year as Ferrari fans. We are finally going to get salvation, alright? Red Bull has found salvation. Mercedes has found salvation. McLaren has found salvation after a long time. But Ferrari has not found salvation. We are going to have salvation. We are going to eat. We are going to eat. And we're going to eat very well. Some will say we'll eat a lot. Alright? This is going to be very successful. But I hear you asking right now, Zachary Brown of the Zachary Brown broadcast, how do you know that Ferrari is going to win? And for that, I bring up testing. And I know what you're thinking. Testing doesn't matter. Testing scores don't matter. But hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. Please, for the love of God, hear me out. All right? It is the second test at Bahrain. Not to be confused with day 2 of test 1 at Bahrain. Because Formula 1 doesn't find this confusing enough, apparently. But what I'm getting at here is that Ferrari has introduced 2 new things. And unlike Mercedes, they're actually legal. So, the first I'm going to talk about is the little diffuser right behind the exhaust pipe. Because that is easier and that'll be a lot less talking than the next thing that I'm going to talk about, which I have a pretty good name for, I think. But basically, and it's pretty simple, it's just like a block made out of, it's probably not made out of metal, it's probably made of like carbon fiber. They love carbon fiber in Formula 1. But what it does is it takes the exhaust coming out of the exhaust pipe on the Ferrari, and it hits this little box thing that shoots it up towards the rear wing, giving the car more downforce, which is epic. All right, that is awesome. And the FIA have stated it is legal, which is also awesome, because normally when Ferrari does something like this, they make Ferrari oil up and take it raw. But they're not making them do that this time because they found it's legal. And the second thing that Ferrari has done, there's technically 3 things that Ferrari have done, but the other one is more of an engine regulations thing, and I think it'll affect all the Ferrari engine teams and not just Ferrari, like Scuderia Ferrari, like the Formula 1 team. But anyway, the second thing they've done is they've introduced a spinny wing. And you're probably saying, exactly what the hell is a spinny wing? All right? And it's exactly what it sounds like, all right? If you can imagine, so in the active aero, most of the cars are currently using a system for the rear wing that was similar to DRS, which was the old system, the drag reduction system. And that was, you hit the point, and then you hit the button on the wheel, and then the funny flap on the wing opens up, and then you have less drag. Ferrari have decided that that was not enough. What they brought out is that the entire wing rotates, or not the entire wing, but the two flaps rotate more than 180 degrees. I think it's something like 196 degrees was the number I read, decreasing drag on the straightaways. And in the rotation, going into the corner, into like a heavy braking zone, it can also act as more drag on the car, because remember, this has to rotate, and so you have that that brief moment where the wing is sideways, where it creates the most drag, and so it can act basically as a drag parachute, which is pretty dope, I think. But the FIA have also ruled this legal, and they are not making Ferrari oil up and take it raw. So that is also really cool. And that is why I believe Ferrari will win the 2026 Formula One World Drivers and World Constructors Championship before the summer break, because they are better than everybody else right now. And speaking of being better than everybody else, we should actually talk about the starts. Because one of the big talking points about the starts was that the cars may not start. What I'm getting at is that during the first test in Bahrain, the cars would usually rev for about 30 seconds, around 30 seconds before zooming off into the distance. And so obviously, if I'm on the starting grid and the lights are going out, that there's talks that there may be stalls on the grid. And there were stalls on the grid last year. Oscar Piastri stalled on the grid in Baku, and then went down to 20th, and then proceeded to jihad it into the wall. But what Ferrari has seemed to have done is that Ferrari seemed to have noticed this. From the reports I've read, this is unconfirmed, so do take this with a minor pinch of salt. But from what I've read, Ferrari, during the engine reg, said, hey, this is around 2023 or 2024, something like 3 years ago, went, hey, this is a problem. We should probably address this. And then the other teams, the other engine manufacturers, said, shut up, you're Ferrari, you just don't know how to do it, which is honestly kind of valid. But now, those other engine manufacturers are in a little bit of a pickle, because like I said, they have to rev their engine for 30 seconds to get pressure in their turbo, while the Ferrari does not. And so every practice start that they've done with the Ferrari, or that they've done with the cars, the Ferrari always takes off like a rocket. And that's because the Ferrari uses a smaller turbo than the rest of the cars, or the Ferrari engined cars use smaller turbos, because they supply engines to Cadillac, Haas, not Sauber anymore. They used to supply them to Sauber, but they don't anymore, because Sauber's now Audi. So I think it's just Cadillac and Haas. But yeah, so that is why Ferrari is going to win the championship. And if they don't, then I'm going to be really sad. Right now, at the current moment, I think... Do you know what this would actually be really good for? Because I'm about to go on a rant here, so I'm going to bring out our next intro. So strap on in, because we're going to take a deep dive into the bitching box.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
So, yeah, that's the intro for the new segment called The Bitching Box, where, if you haven't guessed already, I bitch for a little bit until I decide that my voice hurts. But I'm a little bit more proud on that one than I am the Tifosi Zone intro. Like I said, though, I have another one. I have another intro. I'm not going to bring it out for this broadcast. because I just don't feel it's appropriate. Because right now I'm currently broadcasting from on top of the White House. Right now I'm currently sitting on top of the White House. I have no idea what's going on in there. I don't know how I got up here, but I just woke up. I was on top of the White House. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm doing this broadcast from the top of the White House. So I'm on top of the White House. But yeah, I have one for a segment. I haven't fully named the segment yet, but it'll be something against AI. Because I have a lot of gripes with AI as of recently that I need to get out. Or I may just put that in the bitching box. I may actually just put that in the bitching box. I may dump that altogether. Like I said, some of these aren't final, and so I may as well. Now that I'm thinking about it right now, I may as well turn that AI one into one about like just like world news or economics in general, because it would work either way. Um, it would be something stupid. I haven't come up with a name yet, but it will be something stupid, and it will probably be very vulgar. But yeah. So anyway, let's talk the bitching box. All right, and on today's discussion in the bitching box, it's gonna be AI, and I wasn't gonna talk about this. All right, because honestly, there are like a lot of people out there who are way more qualified to talk about it than me. But right now, like these last 2 weeks have been so frustrating. And like most of that frustration comes from the fact that they are using or from AI. All the frustration is coming from AI. And so I've been applying for some jobs as of late because I was let go at the other job. I had a job in back in like August or September, and they laid me off, which sucked. So I've been currently living off of like my fund that I have, and I have a fund and I had about $6,000 in there, and now I'm below 1,000. Things are we are it. This is critical for the Zachary Brown broadcast, and so obviously I've been looking for jobs for a while, probably ever since like November, but I haven't been able to find one. And then I finally did find one, and I did an interview with them. All right. All right. Before we get to the interview, let's get to the actual hiring process first. Um, like sending in the resume and sending in, like that was all an AI chatbot that I was talking to, but I wasn't surprised. I wasn't necessarily surprised on that because even then, like if you look at like tech support or like stuff um, like from like 6 or 7 years ago. Not like that. I didn't say it like that. Um, then like it's just like you send in a response and it's a pre-programmed thing. Like okay, I'll send this out. So that I was expecting. What I wasn't expecting was to get a text message from an actual phone number, not like one of those like 480000 numbers, like an actual like phone number, like allegedly from a person like talking to me and going like, hey, so I saw you had an interest in the job, like what are you thinking about it? And I was like, yeah, I'd like to set up an interview. And so I do a phone interview with them, and something's off. Like it's the way they're speaking, like the speech that they're using, and the mannerisms in their voice is off. And so I ask during the interview, is this an AI? Am I talking to a real person or am I talking to an AI? And lo and behold, I was talking to an AI. I was talking to an AI. I I don't know. Are they still called chatbots when they talk? I guess it makes sense, but when you think of chatbots, you think of the like a just the text. I don't know. But I did the interview, and I just got this today, and let me read it. Let me pull up the phone and read it, all right? What did it say? Hi, Zachary. I'm sorry to inform you, but we have decided to move on from your hiring process due to the interview that you gave us. We hope you the best in the future. Sincerely, the company that I applied for. This is what it openly said. If I asked, "Are you an AI?" and it was a real person, I would understand it. But it openly said that it was an AI. It said, "Yes, I am an AI working for this company." I've got a lot of gripes with AI. Obviously that's one of them. But the thing is that like now, like I said before, like I'm running low on funds. I gotta get a job, but jobs are hard to come by because everybody's being laid off for these AIs. Um, like I walked into Sprouts the other day, which is like a farmer's market, and they literally had these new shopping carts there, and it uses AI to automatic, like, as a self checkout. Like it scans what's in your cart, and then so you don't even have to like go to the register. You just tap your card and then it pays, and then you can go to your car and put your groceries and shit away, which is insane. So it's like, okay, so like that's coming out. And so, I mean, how many cashiers are there in the United States? I mean, like when you think of entry level jobs, I mean, I think like cashier or like fast food employee. And they're already replacing some fast food employees with like that AI voice in the drive-throughs. Um, like at Taco Bell they have it. You can easily fool it though. You can get a human back by saying you want like 4 gajillion water cups, but it's it's not great. And it's like a you look at it and it's there but like people talk about like the benefits of AI, like, "Oh, I know this is bad and I know this isn't like ideal, but like think of the benefits. Think of the benefits." And it's like, "What benefits?" Because the way I see it, like I asked, like I rarely use AI. Um, well, I guess I technically use it every day because I use Google every day. And when I search something up on Google, the fucking Gemini comes up, and it's usually half the time it's wrong. But not counting that, I hardly use AI. But I go on and I ask the AI, "Hey," because I had a little tickle of the tism here, all right? And I was thinking of the 2010 Formula One World Championship. And during the final race in Abu Dhabi, Fernando Alonso was held up by the Renault of Vitaly Petrov, and he did not win the championship. So I asked the AI a very simple question. Had Fernando Alonso passed Vitaly Petrov in that race, would he have been the Formula One world champion? That was the question. And it puked out "It is highly likely that Fernando Alonso would have been Formula One champion." That's not what I asked. It's a yes or no question, all right? All I'm not looking for like the finishing positions of like other cars or anything like that. All I know, like as they finished, except Fernando Alonso is one step ahead because he finished ahead of Vitaly Petrov. Would he have enough points to beat Vettel in the championship? And it puked out another response. And then it did this about 5 times before I finally gave up and found some old Reddit thread and got the answer that I was looking for. No, had Fernando Alonso passed Vitaly Petrov, he would not have mathematically won the championship. He would have needed to pass the Mercedes of Nico Rosberg as well. That is all I wanted. All right. And I was talking about this to somebody today, and they said, well, that's a complicated question. Well, here's the thing. Here's my counter to it. If AI can create stats for like baseball players from like the 1910s, when like those stats didn't even exist, and they're like actually credible, like they're actually like credible to that player, like how they played, I think it can do some simple math of moving the numbers around, but apparently it can't. And so, and it's the, like, I can't afford anything now because of this, you know? It's like people are always like, oh, the AI bubble, the AI bubble. And the thing is that as much as I want this to be a bubble, it's not a bubble in the traditional sense. Don't get me wrong, it is still very much inflated by the hype. But for those who don't know what a bubble is, or, well, you've probably heard the word bubble floating around, but I'm going to explain it in real simple terms. Basically, if you look, like in the late 90s and early 2000s, like there's a thing called the dot-com bubble. And basically, with a bubble, there's excitement towards a product. So in that instance, it was like the .com websites. And so, but as more money gets pumped into the bubble and like more hype grows, the more unrealistic those expectations become. So before, like during the .com bubble, it was like, hey, we made this new site. It's called Google. You should check out google.com. And people were like, awesome. And then, like, it finally exploded to where you had these, like, insane websites that were served, like, no absolute purpose whatsoever. And then finally the bubble popped, and then we entered a little mild recession that everybody forgot about because, like, 5 years later, the housing crisis happened, and then we had that recession. And mind you, the housing crisis, that was also a bubble. But the thing with bubbles is that money is moved around that doesn't exist. And so that's usually what causes bubbles. But the thing with AI is that money does exist. There is, like, Nvidia is actually making money off of this. Nvidia, obviously some of the money doesn't exist, but a lot of the money does. A good majority of the money does, which means it's not a bubble in the traditional sense. However, it doesn't mean that it won't pop. But basically, like, the best way to sum it up right now is that all these, like, if I want to buy a new computer, all right? Like, say my computer, like, my laptop dies for college, right? I got my laptop for $400. It's a pretty nice unit for the price. But I looked at the price again, and it's now $900. And there hasn't been, like, a tech increase or anything. And that's because of the cost of RAM. And the reason RAM is so expensive right now is because RAM is used in graphics cards. And these graphics cards are being, like, all these graphics cards makers, like NVIDIA, AMD, Intel now, the cheap Chinese crap that nobody knows about, they've bought up all the RAM, including the RAM, like, hey, we're going to buy all your existing RAM and your future RAM. So at the moment, we have graphics card companies buying RAM that does not exist yet, which will be put into graphics cards, which do not exist yet, which is being bought by AI data centers to be put into data centers, which does not exist yet, which will be powered by infrastructure, which does not exist yet. And so, like, that's the problem. And the real sucky thing about it is that, like, either way, like, we lose. Like, like if the AI thing keeps going on, then like everything will become like unaffordable, or like we won't. I guess not unaffordable, but we won't, like, nobody will be able to get a job. Nobody will be able to like basically all the stuff that I was complaining about earlier. And then, but if this bubble does pop, we enter into a recession. But either way, we I lose money and you lose money and everybody loses money. And so it just sucks. The whole situation just sucks. And I don't even know what to think anymore about it. Like it's like I genuinely think that like this generation is cooked because like I said, like I Gen Alpha, I don't think they're old enough yet to like be trying to get jobs and stuff. But like honestly, like God help them. Like they are going to be so like I'm sitting here complaining about it. It's going to be even worse for them. Like it's I and there's like a big cope going around. Like whenever I bring this up or when other people bring this up, and the big cope is, well, somebody has to tend for the AI. But here's the thing is that most of these AI things, most of them write their own code. Like we saw that with Microsoft. Microsoft introduced like their Copilot AI, and now like a bunch of the Windows updates, like their code is written with AI, and that's why Windows keeps crashing. But even if that wasn't the case, yes, we have someone who looks over the AI. It's one AI. And like if I have like an assembly line, all right, I'm making, I have like a spray paint factory, you know. Um, it's not like I have one AI that bottles the that makes the bottles, and one AI that pressurizes it, and one AI that mixes the paint. No, that's not the case. It's all one, and they're all just it's just one AI like attached to numerous machines doing multiple things at once. That's what it is. So you have one guy or two guys doing like who look over it and basically make sure that it doesn't blow up. And you lose like hundreds of jobs in the process. So yeah, this whole thing is a really stinky poopy situation. But I think my voice is starting to hurt, so we're gonna climb out of the bitching box. And yeah, I will. Oh shit! I gotta grab the kazoo. I forgot I do the outros with the kazoo now. So, like I said before, my voice is a little bit hoarse. I said that in the last broadcast, I believe, and it's still a bit hoarse. Um, Ultimately, there's not much I can do about it, but yeah, um, I'm hoping to have this broadcast. I'm hoping, like I said before, I think I said this before, but I'm hoping to have this as a by like every other day it comes out. Like unless something big happens, like the INDYCAR test that I went to, then obviously it wouldn't. But I'm hoping to have something um every other day, because honestly, if I do this every day, um I don't have enough schizophrenic thoughts to um to talk and ramble on for 50 minutes. And I'm guessing it's because of the Jewish space laser that I'm going to blame that. But um yeah, so fuck damn it. God damn it. What was I thinking? Oh yeah, the outro. The outro. What should I outro? I've already done that one. Yeah, I did that one in the second broadcast, so I shouldn't do that one.